Hello guys, welcome to Famine Reaction. My name is Chris.
My name is Lucy.
Thank you for choosing our video, guys. Yeah, thumbs up. Then you better click that subscribe button already right now. Yay! If you're new here, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah. Today we will take a look at a video called
Is It Really India versus China?
by
Karolina Goswami.
Yes, let's jump right into it.
For many decades, India has faced many issues because of the expansionist policies of China. Well, China has border issues with nearly all its neighbors. For many people around the world, India and China are the next two emerging giants. But are these two countries really comparable? Regularly, some of us tend to compare China with India. Yes, they are comparable in terms of population. Both are ancient civilizations, and it is believed that historically China had a massive cultural influence from India. But today, should we really be comparing these two giants? In the recent years, there have been times when it was even suggested that India can benefit by adopting the Chinese development model. But for many, it makes no sense. And it is because today, the way these two countries function is completely different. Just because both countries have similar population, comparing them does not make so much sense, especially when we have a vibrant democracy in India, where ordinary citizens have had a chance to take the top ranks in the central and state governments. And on the other hand, we see a communist rule in China, where citizens hardly have any voice or any choice. India gives freedom to its citizens and to its media to publicly criticize or protest against their democratically chosen governments. And in China, freedom does not exist, whether it is individuals' freedom or the freedom of its media. And what is even worse, that most Chinese do not even know how it feels to be free. Moreover, international social media sites are banned in China. However, organ trafficking is somehow still on through some backdoor channels. And that is why there is no way that India has to find its role model in China. Yes, India can buy China-made products or take paid Chinese assistance in those fields in which China has succeeded due to its passion and keenness in reverse engineering. And yes, it is really possible, as in the recent times, these two countries have had a series of many engagements on a political level. China is famous for the art of hiding its ugly sides from the international tourists. They know how to cover up slums, as they famously demonstrated that during the Olympics in Beijing in 2008. On the other hand, we have Indians who desperately need to improve their poor waste management infrastructure. Even though India produces far lesser waste and emissions, still many of its streets look dirtier than the streets of the USA or even China's. Many rivers in India are extremely dirty, and nearly all its initiatives to clean its rivers haven't shown any sensational progress. Openly, both countries deny that they are competing with each other, but it is difficult to believe that the Chinese are very happy about India's rise. China has been heavily investing in the countries that surround India and is trying to increase its influence in South Asian and Southeast Asian zone. On the other hand, India is keen to work closely with countries like Vietnam, Philippines and Japan, just to name a few. India is keen to build its friendship with a Central Asian nation like Kazakhstan, and in Tajikistan, India maintains a base. Not just that, both countries are also competing in Myanmar, where China has invested money in Dawei port, and India has done the same by investing money in Sitwe port. India is famous for under-invoicing, and it has its own challenges, as just a tiny percentage of its citizens pay taxes. On the other hand, China is often accused of deliberately fudging its data upwards. The fact is that India is not comparable to anyone. There is no democracy of such a big size in the world, and India's extraordinary diversity in its cultures, religions, and languages makes it even more unique. But does it mean that India cannot learn anything from China? Perhaps it can. India can learn from China how to boost the self-confidence of its citizens by taking pride in its cultures, in its identity, and also by beautifully preserving them. In the global scenario, India can learn from China how to be more straightforward and a bit more selfish in order to protect its national interest without being over concerned of how the world would react. India can learn from China how an amazing rail infrastructure can be built by the power of money, as money can buy any technology regardless of who the inventor is and where the invention happens. And not only the rail infrastructure, perhaps India can also learn from China that any exotic foreign cuisine can also be made available and popular in a country without getting invaded. India can learn from China how tourism can be increased by building modern architectural marvels instead of thanking its looters, colonizers and invaders for building them, even though they destroyed more than what they built. And what they built was also from the wealth that was looted from India. India can learn from China how to aggressively promote its tourism among the world's citizens, give priority to modernize the infrastructure for its international tourists, and at least clean those streets first, which are visited by them. India can also learn from China how a combination of a sophisticated sports infrastructure and the clever use of legal performance-enhancing supplements can get you the Olympic Games glory. India can learn from China how in our times there are many countries for whom the power of money speaks better than the power of love and spirituality, and how money can get you friends, allies and partners in the international politics. India may even learn from China how to speak the truth very loud, or just repeat a lie 1,000 times, unless it starts to sound like the truth. But does it mean that India should be deceitful and disrespectful?
No.
Does it mean that India should also bully the small nations and become an expansionist?
No.
Or does it mean that India should take away the freedom of its citizens and its media and also start hiding its slums? No, it doesn't. Because India can be tactful, India can be proactive, and India can be pro-India so that it can protect its heritage and its interests. India can also dig its own history and find its own role models and can make its citizens self-inspired.
It's all about love and dance
Because
and fun.
India is unique.
Spirituality and great
India is
attitude.
multicultural. India is diverse. And there is no other India. And that is why the world can afford to be a bit more India. But the world cannot afford to be China. And yes, there are still many takers of India's love and spirituality. See you again.
Yeah, what's obviously very clear is the attitudes are completely different between India and China.
Yeah.
You know, especially you've got a democratic, you know, country with this amazing spirituality, like she said, and, you know, diversity and, you know, just like beautiful attitudes. And China is not like that. It's the complete opposite. But, you know, maybe the business side and all that kind of stuff, yes, they could take something. You could take something from that.
Yeah,
But generally,
exactly.
you cannot really
I mean,
compare
China's
them.
business side is
Oh,
very
yeah.
great.
We can all, you know,
Everything, you know,
learn from
made in
that.
China, everywhere.
Everything
you
is
see
made
that,
in
right?
China.
China's business side is probably one of the greatest.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. And but China, the country in itself, well, the funny fact is, I was reading some comments about from Japanese, right? Many Japanese say, "I hate China." They prefer India. I read so many comments on it, right? They said, "I'm from Japan and I hate China. I support India only." But maybe there's a reason for that. And now we got that reason. They maybe they don't really care about the people at all, you know? That's the
But
feeling
it's
that
hard to love China in the sense of, you know, like there isn't much freedom, you know, for the people. And like they said, they're not used to freedom. So maybe they don't feel the pain that we can imagine they would feel, because if you've grown up like that, if you don't know any different, you know, and if you're used to kind of only having a certain amount of news, and like, you know, it's like anything, it's like knowledge. If you don't know anything else, then you don't really suffer over it. But for people like us from democracies and from where, you know, we're allowed to have our own opinions and we can choose our own style of life, we can have as many children as we want, we can, you know, we can choose to be whatever we want to be, then that the idea of, you know, China is extremely, like, it's horrible, you know. It's the thought of it is like being in a prison or something, because we're not used to it. But you certainly, I agree with her, you cannot compare India and China at all on those levels. But yes, we can all learn, we can all take things from, you know, other people, the positive side. But I think, you know, India is on its own in this amazing way. It's spirituality, and, you know, it does, you know, India does so well. And so I think we can all, like she said, we can all learn from India.
Of course, India, everybody can learn from India, especially how you act. How you are as a person is India's probably the greatest country to learn from, because you see how every Indian acts to people, how they react to people. They're always there.
Lovely attitudes.
I also saw a video behind the scenes. Actually, it was in like, these were pranksters, right? They were going out in the street and treating a little girl like she was a slave, right? All the Indians were getting around and ready to jump that person. They were very angry, and then they figured out that there was a TV show, and he said, "No, I still hate you for doing this."
Oh, you see, that's so nice.
And then there was another one where they were bullying another little girl, right? Then one person spoke, one said, "Oh, you shouldn't do this," and all that, right? Then 20 more comes, because he says, once one speak, everybody will come and support you, and that's good.
It's
but
so nice.
It's all about community. It's be more open, and you know, help each other, have a heart.
And being together, like what we all need to be at a time like this, you know, very scary time. Everyone needs to stick together. It shouldn't just be about the individual. We have seen a little bit of that. We've seen everyone obviously bulk buying, and, you know, which, okay, fair enough, people have to do it for their families, but don't forget about your neighbor, your elderly neighbor, someone who really needs it. Don't buy too many things if it means that your elderly neighbor or someone in need, someone who's disabled or can't get out, it means that they can't get what they need. Make sure that you support other people too. I think that's really important, you know, because in these kind of events, it brings out the best and it brings out the worst in people. I like to be positive and think that, you know, many people, you know, it brings out a lot of good in people. Yes, it does. We can all, but if we all come together and help each other, then, you know, we get through things. And so, like what we've learned here, that India seems to have that attitude all round. So
I mean, generally us in general as well, we also have that nice attitude, and everybody should have it. Of course, everybody fights every now and then, but you know what? But we generally have that attitude, right? And of course, we are in this desperate time. We are gonna help people in the block as well.
If it means we've got loads of something and our neighbour doesn't have it, then I'll be like, do you know what? Let's give you this because we've got plenty of it. Let's share. And so I think that's really nice to be like that. Let's not just be for ourselves. Let's look out for everyone, and that way everyone will get through it. And also, if we all follow the guidelines, as much as it might feel very boring or whatever, then this will end a lot quicker. So I think we should all just kind of, you know, sit this out and protect everyone. Anyway, rant. Oh my god.
Any last words? No? Okay, guys, let me hear what you guys think. Comment down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you can always stay tuned when a new video drops. Until next time, peace out.
Bye.